Hello. So this is going to be the kind of second video for I did the abusive fathers video in regard to Kaido and Endeavor and, like their relationships with their children and just kind of them as people in general. And yeah, the general consensus between that is like Kaido is worse than Endeavor because Kaido has tortured an entire country and probably killed thousands and slave labor and all that stuff. Endeavor, whereas he is obviously not a good human being necessarily, he's not a good parent, he's not a good husband. He is a good hero, and he has saved probably like countless numbers of people at this point in time throughout the course of his 20, 25-year, 30-year long, whatever, hero career. And so we've seen that in regards to him. And, as I also stated, it's like Kaido at this point in time has no intention of trying to fix his relationship with Yamato. He probably has like more of a, parent-child relationship with like Ulti in page 1, as I've stated, than he does with Yamato at this point in time. And even to a degree like King, Queen, and Jack, particularly Jack. But like King and Queen and him, at the very least, the King and Queen seem to have at least a decent relationship with Kaido. Their loyalty is to him, obviously. They don't care for each other in the slightest. And they kind of don't care for Jack, but they at least have, a large amount of respect for Kaido. We don't really know where, like, Yamato's relationship lies with, like, King and Queen and Jack. She probably kind of has somewhat of a brother-sister relationship in regards to, Ulti and Page 1, simply just because of the fact of they've been around for so long, in regards to, and Jack to a degree as well. They were around for so long, and the three of those three were kind of all raised by Kaido. Whereas Yamato is Kaido's biological child, but has kind of turned on Kaido and wants to more follow something that Yamato sees as a better example. So I went over that, and with Shoto and with Endeavor, Endeavor, at least as I stated in the other video, Endeavor at the very least is trying to do something to make up for what he did. Kaido doesn't really have any regrets about what he's done, as far as we can tell. Beating his child till she, had like so many broken bones and was like black and blue probably continuously for the past 20 years or so, since, Yamato declared that she wanted to be like Odin. And, and now he's just, Kaido's basically to the point where he's just like, yeah, no, I'm just, you're fighting on the side of the enemy right now, and yeah, I'm just gonna kill you. That's his intention. Is just like, screw that. I don't care if you are my child. I am going to kill you now. And it's not like I can't find someone else and have another child. It's not like I can't find some other woman and have another child and make sure that child has like Oni blood in them or something like that. Try to have like a true Oni prince or something like that. Whereas Endeavor is at least trying to make up with his wife and his children, trying to be better to Shoto, at least as better as he can be, trying to be better with Rei, and the family at the moment in the manga is, of course, putting on this like united front against Dabi. And Shoto wants to have him and Endeavor go up against Dabi themselves, so that way they can take Dabi out, because he's like, we're the ones that created this monster, we need to go after him together, as I went over in the abusive fathers one with those two. So this video is going to be more about Shoto and Yamato in regards to the fact of how they are rising above what their fathers have done. How even with everything that they've been through, they have kind of tried to not let it turn them into their fathers. And I'm going to go over those separately in regards to like various points where I do point out, like, in some cases they are similar to their fathers, in other cases they are not, and where they are getting better and why they are getting better in certain cases. Why they have like either outside influences making them better or kind of internal influences making them better. So, and Okay, so I'm gonna show you a picture of um where I work. We have this giant like rock wall and concrete wall, and like encircling our parking lot area. And a couple of weeks ago, when I was driving in, I looked off to the side, and there's this like sunflower type thing like popping out of the side of the wall up by the top of it. And like they're, it's like nice healthy sunflowers that just like popped out at an angle. And I'm like, okay, I want a picture of that. And I got some pictures of it, and here's a couple of the pictures that I took, and I liked the pictures. I actually like picked one of the flowers and like put it in my hair and had it by me for like the rest of the day while I was at work that day, which, given the fact that I have allergies, put this thing that produces pollen like within like 2 feet of my face for quite a while. And yeah, that kind of made me sneeze for a while, but it was a nice flower. um the plant is still there. As of recording of this video, the plant is still there. As of release of the video, I don't know if the plant will still be there. It might still be there. We'll see. It might stay there until winter, when winter sets in and everything dies. We'll see how that goes. I also want to know, because I don't remember seeing that plant, last year at this time or the year before at this time. So something got it, something landed there and grew. So, and it's like at an angle, and I just wanted to point that out. And so, basic stuff in regards to what I'm going to go over for some basic statistics on the characters. I did this in the previous video for Kaido and Yamato, or Kaido and Endeavor's video. So, in regards to, where Yamato is coming from, we have Kaido of the Beast, 100 Beast Pirates or so, strongest creature, Wisdom King. He is currently 59 years old. He has the Ua Ua no Mi model Seiryu, or the Fish Fruit Mythical Zone model Azure Dragon. And, he has his Kanabo called Hasaikai. So we have that with Kaido, and he is, of course, is kind of this drunk all the time and everything, but he's also extremely strong. Physically strong in regards to just his regular body, and of course even stronger when you get his hybrid form involved and his dragon form involved. So we have that, and he's been clashing with Luffy for a while. At the moment this is coming out, this is the chapter, or when I'm recording this, is during the chapter, just after the chapter where like Luffy and Kaido are, they did their giant clash with their haki, with their Conqueror's haki kind of clashing in the skies, ripped apart, torn asunder. And, so we see them together, and, Yamato and Momo go off to try to stop Onigashima from landing on the Flower Capital. So if you want some context for where I am when this video is coming out, that's there. And it's like maybe the third or fourth episode in the anime after, the introduction of Yamato, and where we're starting to see more of Yamato, with her without the mask and everything, and such. And then in regards to Yamato, her statistics, she is currently 28 years old. She has the Inu Ino no Mi model, Okuchi no Makami, or the dog fruit model Okuchi no Makami, which the Okuchi no Makami is also the guardian deity of Wano. And of course, Yamato also is like this self-styled Odin, follower type thing. She wants to be Odin because of what he represented. And that's another reason why at this point in time Kaido's just like fed up with her. And side note, just because I can, when I mention things about the Makami, because we don't have any anime pictures yet, obviously, of Yamato in her, as her, hybrid. You might hear the jingling of the dog collar in the background, which is actually appropriate for this, because I don't have any actual images to show you, because I don't want to risk using the manga images or steal someone else's artwork. I'm just going to use some funny pictures of Rainy. whenever I'm talking about the Makami devil fruit, because I just want to. So here's a funny picture of Rainy. A little while ago, him and my mom had to pick me up from the mechanic after I dropped my car off, and he's just like so happy driving down like 40 miles an hour down the street with it, down one of our main streets with his nose out the window. So he was fun. He had fun with that. And yeah, I'll just show some other funny pictures of Rainy or some other cute pictures of him when I talk about, Yamato's devil fruit and such. So as I mentioned, Yamato also kind of has this. Rainy, come here. Come here. Come here. Fine, don't. Maybe he will. We got dog coming. Wanna come be a Makami in the video? He's like, I'll just knock over everything. What are all of these? Up. Well, while he's deciding what to do, I'll point out what I have here in the background. I have, both versions of Vulpix over here, the Kanto and the Alola versions of Vulpix. And I got Shoto in the middle. Yes, that's a Shoto. Those are Vulpixes. He's like, I will sniff them. What are these other things, Mommy? And then we have my fuzzy dinosaurs and my cute little fluffy, rainbow puppy that's kind of representative of Yamato at the moment. Of course, we got Brachiosaurus. Hi. Are you annoyed that I'm talking to other fluffy things? And then we have a Makami here. We have my Makami here to represent Yamato. I hope that you would at least pop up in the video at some point. Beyond picture. Oh, no. Are you done now? Okay, he's done. So the dog is now no longer going to be in the room. You got some slight Rainy time, though. So you got a dog treat. So I'll just pop up pictures of Rainy when I talk about Yamato's devil fruit, because I don't have, we don't have manga images or anime images yet of the devil fruit. Although I do hope that at some point we do get to see her in her full form of the Makami, which is probably going to be pretty cool looking. In regards to Yamato and her connection to her father, her relationship with her father, as I stated in the Kaido video, or Kaido and Endeavor video, we don't really know that much about like what Kaido and Yamato's relationship was like before her watching Odin's execution, before she started to idolize Odin. They could have gotten along quite well. She may have idolized her father up to that point, and then watching this man stand up to her father may have just gotten it to the point where she's just like, my father's horrible with everything that he'd allowed to happen and with everything that I've seen him happen. And this man, this Kozuki Odin, that is, was willing to stand in the boiling oil for, an hour to protect his people, his friends, his family, is a far superior of a man than my father is, than Kaido is. And we saw how that started to affect Yamato as a child, and like shortly after the execution, she ended up finding her way, of course, to Curry Castle, where she found the logbook that was, that's her Bible and such, where she found that, and she has kept that with her for the last 20 years, kept it away from her father, because I'm sure that if Kaido found it, he would scour through that thing for like any form of information he could find in regards to the road poneglyphs, and regards to any clues about where Laugh-Tale is, because I can guarantee you that's what Kaido would have done. Scoured through all of that. We saw what happened with Yamato in more of the flashbacks recently, where where her father trapped her on this cave in Onigashima with these samurai, and he's basically like, okay, well, either you will all kill each other for the food, or they will kill you because you are my child, and whatever, it'll teach you a lesson. I'm like, that's some extremely harsh parenting methods there. At the very least, Endeavor wasn't to the point where he was going to do that to any of his children. Not that that necessarily makes Endeavor look a whole lot better in regards to what he did do to Shoto, but that's for later in the video. But what we of course see happen is, Yamato watches as, the samurai, they free her and they free her from the chains and they give her the food. And then she explains, it's like, well, I found this manga, ha ha ha, basically. Okay, next thing we're going to do in One Piece. We are going to literally just, do all of, Roger and, Rayleigh's adventures and everything, and, show them when they meet, Odin, all this other stuff. But I just like this concept of, Yamato's just like, well, I found this book and it's got some big words in it that I can't really read. So can you help me? And all the samurai just like, oh my god, that's Odin's logbook. Where did you find that? They just spend the rest of the time in the cave just reading the book and teaching Yamato the bigger words and how to read more. Because I can guarantee you, as smart as Queen is probably the smartest member in regards to book learning in the Beast Pirates. King might be quite intelligent as well, but we just haven't seen too much of that. We know he doesn't like it when people break his mask, but we'll see what else happens. With that, we don't really know too much about that beyond the fact of he's a Lunarian, but we don't know 100% what that means at this point in time. But Queen obviously was, the plagues that Queen has created, he's obviously quite intelligent. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Kaido was quite, was like, oh yeah, well, you need to teach my kid how to read. It was Kaido probably knows how to read, but, that doesn't necessarily mean that he saw that as high priority of things that Yamato needed to know by the age of 8. So she's basically taught how to read by the samurai. And they teach her, and they help her read through the logbook, and they all read through the logbook, and they Odin's prophecy and everything about 20 years down the line there will be these these new pirates that will show up, this new force and everything, and they will come and they will topple Kaido, and they know possibly at least Yamato may have heard about all of them probably know about Lady Toki's prophecy at this point in time. It was in 20 years, the Kozuki clan will return and everything. She sent Kinemon and Momo and Denjiro, or not Denjiro, Kanjuro, and Raizo into the future, and Okiku into the future, and then the rest of them are still there in the past and have to go through it the long way. But, they'll show back up again. Of course, Yamato is waiting for that. And, of course, she watches as the samurai willingly, after almost the month that they're in the cave, trapped in the cave, the samurai are just okay, well, now we're going to break out of here. And, and they escape, and they help Yamato escape. And, they probably cause, this giant distraction to allow Yamato to escape. Now, we do not know, I may have stated some of this in the Kaido video, but we do not know, Kaido Endeavor video, but we don't know exactly how long Yamato has had to be on the run. At the most, obviously, it's 20 years. And second of all, she has the explosive cuffs on her that she's apparently had on her since she was about 8 years old. Unless, every so often, I was we gotta get some new cuffs on her, and they just pin Yamato down and change out her cuffs so they're they're larger so she can keep growing. Because Kaido obviously wanted Yamato to get stronger. He wants Yamato to be strong. He had wanted Yamato to be wanted to have Yamato be able to take over for him as Shogun, or take over for Orochi as Shogun once they turned Wano into New Onigashima. And destroy the flower capital and have Yamato rule over that. Well, Kaido then goes and rules over the rest of the world as king of the pirates. And Yamato didn't want that. She may not have necessarily known that that was what Kaido wanted at the time, but she spent kind of a good part of the last 20 years probably kind of to a degree on the run. And as I stated again, we don't know how far those cuffs allow her to go. I don't remember finding anything where it states specifically how far she's allowed to go with the cuffs on. It might be she can't leave the like the certain perimeter around Onigashima, or they'll explode. Or she can't leave like the perimeter around Wano, like it's like that they have like that ring around Wano where all of the where the like the waterfall leads up to, and then there's like this big ring of rocks around Wano. I'm kind of like at Dressrosa where there's this ring of rocks around it and then it's up, but we don't know where, like, okay, so how far can Yamato go? Because if she was only trapped on Onigashima, then she would have spent the last 20 years literally like hiding in her own home from her father, and barely being able to have food. Obviously she was able to get food, but any person that showed her any form of kindness or sympathy were killed. Kaido killed them and made sure that Yamato knew why they were dead, why they had been killed. And so we watch that, and we kind of watch a little bit of that from like Yamato's point of view throughout the flashbacks that we got more recently, that we get in the manga. And those will be interesting to see once they're translated into the anime. We might get a little bit more elaboration of stuff. And of course, at some point in this time frame between when she escaped the cave and when Yamato, finally ended up, down the line, now currently, some point in that time frame, she ate that devil fruit, the Makami devil fruit. Insert picture of Rainy. She ate the devil fruit, and that gave her these, she has her full animal form, her hybrid form, which we've seen the hybrid form multiple times now throughout the course of the manga, and it's probably going to be really freaking cool in the anime. And we'll see what happens with that. And then of course she also now has access to these different elemental powers. Like Kaido has his Boro breasts and his wind scythe blades, and like his the electric stuff. Like he has a Yamato seems to have the power of ice. Her and Shoto are similar in that regard. But Yamato has ice as one of her elemental powers. That seems to be her main one. We don't know if we see anything else in regards to that. I mean, see if I can pop up a picture here of like Rainy with snow around him if I have any of that. Yamato has all of this time, all these 20 years that she spent, probably not continuously, but multiple times where she's, tried to attack her father, tried to fight him, maybe tried to fight King and Queen and Jack and like Ulti and Page One and like any of the other, Toby Roppo as they showed up and everything. And yeah, that would include Drake, even, because Drake is technically a traitor. He's a turncoat, but that's supposed to be what he is because his real loyalty is to, Sword. But Yamato wouldn't have known that at the time. She wouldn't have been aware of like, oh, he's this traitor he's this, actually this Marine that's actually here to help overthrow my father. She wouldn't have known that. That would have been something that she would have known when, nobody knew that except Drake and possibly his crew. But she may have spent like all this time, like anytime like a new Toby Roppo would show up, she may have actually tried to like defeat them to try to get them to leave, to like lower Kaido's ranks, to try to like discourage them. And she probably fought with like, Ulti and Page One multiple times, particularly Ulti, given the fact of how much Ulti is like just idolizes Kaido. Yeah, she called Kaido stupid, but at one point, but that's also just kind of Ulti's attitude of things. But she's also, Ulti just like admires and seems to like worship the ground that Kaido walks on. And the rest of the Toby Roppo kind of seem to have that same way. Black Berea kind of does. Page One is kind of more like, I'm here because my sister's here and Kaido kind of raised us. And I really don't have anywhere else to go because if I tried to leave, they'd probably kill me and my sister would hurt me. But I mean, like something where we get to see like some interactions between like Yamato and like young Ulti and Page One would be kind of an interesting thing, because I don't know, is Page One like Ulti and Page One are like in their early 20s, I think. I don't think they're younger than Yamato. I know that, but I don't remember exactly where they are in like their early 20s ish. But obviously, either they would have shown up shortly before everything happened with Odin, and then they would have, like, depending on how old they were when they showed up, they would have seen this change in Yamato and seen the change in the relationship between Yamato and, and Kaido. Because like if Yamato was similar to the fact of like how much she kind of idolized her father, the way that like Ulti does, the way that Ulti like idolizes Kaido, then maybe it was more when they saw, like they weren't at the execution possibly, but because we don't know exactly when they showed up. We just know that like they were taken there to Onigashima or taken in by Kaido when they were kids after their father died. That was a pirate that Kaido knew. Possibly a former member of the Rocks crew, but we don't know. But we don't know exactly where that falls. So either all the time that they've been around, Yamato and Kaido have not gotten along, and therefore anytime Yamato would show up, either try to fight Kaido or anything like that, they either probably would, Ulti and page 1 particularly, Ulti would have been like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Why are you here trying to annoy Kaido? He's too strong for you. Why are you here? Why would you disrespect him? Why wouldn't you want to be his child? What is wrong with you? Type of thing. Or, it may have been more like, if they were there for a little bit before everything happened with Odin, Yamato may have been more like a little bit like an older sister to the two of them for a little while. And then, because I don't know exactly when, I don't remember exactly how old Ulti and page 1 are. And if you check and I'm just like, I don't know, or if they did specifically state how long Ulti and page 1 have been around Kaido, then that's fine. I know that they both like kind of like the Ulti stole their devil fruits and gave them each, like she got the, Pachycephalosaurus one, and like, page 1 got the Spinosaurus one. We know that, but they weren't eating the fruits because of hunger. Yamato ate her fruit because of hunger, because she was so hungry. And, she ate the devil fruit that way. That's very similar between her and Luffy and Momo in that sense. And of course, Yamato, for the whole time that she was, running around on Onigashima or running around in Wano, give or take how far she was allowed to go, because of the cuffs, she physically trained, she got stronger, she trained with her devil fruit, she trained with her haki, and with her kanabo that she has. And, she did take her father's fighting style in that, because so many of her attacks are based on his fighting style, or based on his kanabo, and based on, like, that power. And obviously she has, all 3 forms of haki. She's got her observation and armament, and she obviously has Conqueror's haki, because we saw that when she was a kid. And she has subsequently used it against Kaido. So we see those clashes that happen between the two of them for quite a while on top of Onigashima. And obviously this is not the first time that they fought, because Yamato told Luffy that, like, oh, my father's beaten me with broken bones so many times over the years, I've lost track. Which is a very, very disturbing and sad thought. Very disturbing and sad. Very sad. And, so she has that. But the other thing that we see with Yamato is that she is kind of literally on her own for these 20 years. Yeah, she's got people that might be able to give her food, but she's probably also just had to do a lot of hunting on her own. Going and, like, tracking, like, maybe in her Makami form, like, using those instincts to, like, track down food. It is probably a carnivore type devil fruit, like we've stated, like, with Lucci and with Jabra. She would have, had that kind of, problem, or not problem, but had this, these instincts where she does have to go and hunt, and she probably would have done that. Either, she can't go, like, into the actual water and, like, catch any of, like, the giant koi, but she could, like, fish and pull them out. Or there are probably, like, wild animals on Onigashima that she's gone after. Or if she was allowed to go into Wano, she would have been able to go after those types of, the animals there and stuff like that and hunt them. But she obviously has been able to survive and scrounge by and keep herself, fairly healthy in the fact of how well she's being able to stand up to Kaido. And of course, there may have been times where, because Kaido at that point in time did not want Yamato to die, he wanted to beat the ever-loving crap out of her because he wanted to break her and then turn her into what he wanted, into the heir that he desired. Break her and just like break her spirit to the point where then he could turn her, mold her into what he wanted to then make Shogun, this, turn her into the Shogun character that he wanted her to be, to take over Wano. And yeah, he called her, where's my son Yamato and everything. He called her son, his son. Whether or not that's just like, oh, you want to be Odin? Okay, fine, I'll call you my son. And that way, later, when I want to, force you basically to be, Shogun of, New Onigashima, then, then the people can't say no because you are my son. And I can force that. Whereas, or it could be that it's like, oh, you want to be Odin, you want to be that way. Okay, fine, then yeah, I'll call you my son out of, I guess, slight grudging respect. It's like, as I say, it's like, horrible human being. You at least get 1 point for at least acknowledging that. You've lost like 1 billion other points, but you get 1 point for that. Because there's like so many, like I've seen like so many different, fun images of like, Yamato, where she's like yelling at her father and he's like, no daughter of mine, son. Oh, fine. Thank you for telling me. No son of mine is going to go out there and pretend to be, Odin Kazuki. It's just like that. Oh, yes, sorry. Son, thank you for telling me. Nobody, just like, then I'm just going to beat the heck out of you anyway. Or, it's like, I saw this adorable fan art that someone made of like, obviously it would have been like before what happened with everything that happened with Odin, where, she watched the execution, the legendary hour. Where Yamato, like, kid Yamato is just, like, curled up with her father, like, as he's, like, sitting and, like, probably reading over whatever Beast Pirates reports, and just, like, laying there curled up next to him or on top of him as she's, like, snuggled into him, and he's just, like, a caring father in that point in time. For all we know, that's how he was, and then just, like, watching her go and, like, idolize this person that had been, like, the first person in a long time to actually cause him damage, to cause him pain. And, that would probably mess with you. And it, it messed with Kaido. And of course, he continuously drinks. Pretty sure he continuously drank before then, too. But, but the other thing with Yamato is like, yeah, she was on her own. And yet she had the Bible. She had her Bible, the logbook that kept her going. That was just like, I have to keep going because I have to be strong. So that way, in, when the 20-year mark hits, I got to go 15 more years. I got to go 10 more years. I got to go 5 more years. It's like, I got to go, 4 more years, 3 more years, 2 more years. I got a year left, and they, and that's when they're supposed to show up again. And when, when my father and Orochi, when they will fall. And, so she's been waiting that whole time, and she's kept the book safe and close to her and everything. And, she's, run around Onigashima, and obviously, like, everybody knows who, the son of Kaido is. Kaido's son, knows who Yamato is, but she's always had the mask on and everything to, like, hide that and everything. So, she was on her own, but she continuously kept hope. And, she kept going, and she probably did what she could when anybody would come to Onigashima that were, like, the prisoners that were brought there and everything. And, it's just, oh, God, it's just hard to watch to a degree. And, Kaido calls Yamato an idiot for, wanting to believe that she could help the cause and everything. Help, the samurai's cause, help the Kazuki clan. But then we also had this moment very recently in the manga where Kaido is like yelling at her, is like, what do you have? And she's like, I have had a friend. This is, of course, where we have Ace come into play. And of course, we got some slight flash, we got like in the anime, we got like the slight extra little bit where we saw like her and Ace, clashing. And then we saw them drinking and having fun. And in the manga, we've got a little bit more. In chapter, 9,000 or 9,000. Oh God, chapter 9,999. sorry, chapter 999, we had like the flashback between like her and Ace, where she was remembering, when Ace first showed up at Onigashima, when he, punched in the dragon, the golden dragon, and where he and Yamato, talked and like, ended up becoming friends. They fought and then they became friends and everything. And, so we saw that in the manga, and we see, how they talked for a little while, because like she knew who Luffy was when Luffy showed up, because Ace had told her about Luffy. He probably told her to a degree about Sabo as well. It was like, oh yeah, I had these two brothers. Well, Luffy, he's great. He's going to become a pirate soon, and he's going to be on his way soon. And then we had another brother named Sabo, but he unfortunately died when we were kids. And, it's like all this other stuff. It's like, no, Sabo is out there. He's alive. That's just always one of those things that makes me so sad. It's just like, Ace never got to find out that Sabo wasn't dead. That's just always one of those sad things that always hits me. It's just like, Ace never got to learn that Sabo wasn't dead. And I've also seen adorable artwork of like Luffy introducing like Yamato and Tama to Sabo, and it's just like, we have like a new brother, Yamato, and we have a new sister, Tama. And Sabo just like, I'm still the oldest. Even though Yamato is a little bit older than him. But like, I would think that Sabo and Yamato would actually get along quite well. And like, he would just be like, also like, I am just going to spoil Tama rotten because she is so cute and she deserves it after everything she's been through. But, tangent. But, what we see, of course, that happens is, Yamato and Ace, of course, become friends. And then Ace leaves after Yamato gives him the Beaver card, and she has a piece of the Beaver card that she keeps. It's probably kept right next to the Bible. Whether or not she's figured out that Ace was Goldie Roger's son is another matter. Before like hearing, possibly because Yamato probably doesn't get a whole lot of news about like the outside world, she may be able to like steal like the papers every now and then, when like Kaido maybe comes back, or like whenever they have people that come back from like going and checking on Kaido's other areas, whenever the World Economic Times comes by, she may be able to like steal some of the papers every now and then and like read up on certain things that are happening in the world, particularly with like what happened with Ace and everything. Particularly if Kaido knew that Yamato was friends with Ace, and he like showed her the newspaper the same way that, Orochi made sure that Odin saw that Goldie Roger was dead, that he'd been executed and everything. And, yes, that would have been a different reaction because Ace wasn't dying on his own terms. Kind of. I mean, like, he sacrificed himself to save Luffy, but at that point in time, he had kind of decided that he wanted to live, but then now he's like, okay, I'm going to save my brother and everything. And, of course, Yamato would have been like, my friend is dead type of a thing. I think Kaido probably would have wanted to use that a way of, like, taunting her. Again, he is a sick motherfucker. He is a second MF. And what ends up happening is, of course, Yamato, of course, had Ace, and they had that friendship. And, then, 2 years later is when he died, and then 2 years later is when Luffy shows up on Onigashima, with this whole raiding party and everything that are there to fight this whole rebellion. And, she saves Luffy from ulti, and she, Thunder Bagara's ulti to protect Luffy, and then grabs him and they dash off, and then she has to explain everything to Luffy about like, no, yeah, I'm Kaido-san, yeah. No, I knew Ace, and I need you to listen to this stuff because I need to explain this stuff to you. And Luffy's like, I don't have time for this. I gotta go save Momo. And she's like, no, I want to help you with that. And like, there's like back and forth between the two of them that's adorable. And like eventually she's just like, no, stop, just listen to me. Okay, here's what it is. Yeah, I'm Kaido's kid. Yeah. No, I have this book. It's the logbook of Kazuki Oden. And I've had it for the past 20 years, and I've been waiting for 20 years for the Kazuki clan to return, so that way I could help them to defeat my father. And like, so we get that whole interaction there, and like, does the whole, takes off her masks and reveals, and Luffy's like, I thought you said you were Kaido's son. And, we get that moment and everything, and she's just like, well, I'm kind of like styled after Kazuki Oden. because he was a man, therefore I had to become a man. And so we get that moment there, and of course, now her and Luffy are friends, and he's like, well, I can try to take those cuffs off of you, and such, because like he's he's getting to the point where he can master the using his haki to be able to time that just right to like rip off the cuffs, because he had to do that at the collars with him and Hio at the prison at the prison there earlier. And he does end up ripping off the shackles, and like they do explode, and she's just like so angry at her father, but like, you had those shackles on me this whole time for the past 20 years and I could have died because of it. She's just like angry at her father. Not that I blame her. Obviously they were out to sea prism stone once, because she obviously was able to train in how to use her devil fruit, obviously, but she couldn't remove them. Hasn't been able to remove them. And Luffy and her, then they work on, it's like you get Momo and you take him to safety, and like she runs off with Shinobu and Momo, and like her and Momo kind of bond a little bit during that time frame. And now her and Momo now are having this, she's like, okay, I need you to make dragon, fire clouds, so that way we can move Onigashima back to where it's supposed to be, or at the very least back out of the way of Wano. Take Onigashima and move it somewhere else, and like do all of that, and it's just like funny. And she's like, okay, you're gonna have to make those fire clouds. I don't know how to do that, just do it. Just arguing back and forth with Momo. And it's gonna be very interesting to see what Momo looks like when he changes, when he shifts out of the dragon form. We might get like a hybrid form at some point for him and his dragon, but like shifts into like his human form now that he's 28 years old. And of course, given what Shinobu said, he either, his dragon form looks exactly like Kaido, but it's pink instead, and his human form will probably look a lot like a combination of like Odin and Toki, like because his hair is more Toki's hair color, so he might look like Odin but have like Toki's hair color, or maybe have like just like slightly softer features because of his mom, because Hiyori looks so much like their mother and such. And I'm going to be very interested to see what happens when like Yamato interacts with Hiyori. That's going to be an interesting interaction too, because it's like, yeah, I am Kaido's child, but I like helped your brother, and I helped the rebellion, and I idolized your father and everything. Because I've seen some interesting fan art on like Tumblr of like Hiyori and Yamato interacting with each other. Sometimes it's a nice interaction, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I think the two of them would kind of make a cute couple as well. That would be a nice couple between the two of them. And then of course there's also like, it's like, or like, I guess, since now technically they're the same age, like Yamato and Momo being a couple, but I don't really see that, because Momo is still mentally like 8 years old. Yeah, he just bit a dragon, and yeah, he's trying to use his fire clouds to try to wrap up Onigashima so they can get it out of there so it doesn't destroy the flower capital. But we'll see what happens with that. But Yamato has managed to rise above what her father had intended for her by keeping her hopes alive, keeping her Bible kept her hopes alive, and her her determination to see her father fall. And yeah, she has literally turned against her father. She is rooting for Luffy and for Momo and for the rebellion, because she has watched for 20 years, 28 years, watched her father be this horrible thing to so many people, to the people of Wano, watched him just like allow Orochi to do what he wanted to do, against all the people in, the flower capital, against the civilians and the citizens and the people that were hungry. And, she may not know about like him giving them the smiles, but, if she was able to at least roam around, Wano, as opposed to just Onigashima, she would have seen all of that. And, maybe tried to do something to stop it. But, we'll see what happens with that. At this point in time, as I said, I'm recording this just after, just after that chapter came out, where we get, Zoro is fighting King, and, Yamato and Momo are trying to get the fire clouds to, get the clouds wrapped around the Onigashima so they can move it out of the way. Well, so that way once Luffy knocks out Kaido, he can, they don't have to worry about like the Onigashima falling and collapsing and like, destroying everything in its path, and being a giant bomb. So that's where I am with Yamato. Just a few more cute pictures of Rainy, just in case I didn't show you enough of them. Other cute pictures of Rainy. Yes, he's adorable. Yes, he's a pain in the butt. Moving on to, of course, Shoto and kind of the relationship that he's had with his father. We, of course, have, Endeavor, and Todoroki is 45 years old at the start. He's 46 years old now. Currently, his quirk is, of course, Hellfire. We have Rei Todoroki. She's 40-ish or so. Her quirk is an ice quirk. We have Toya Todoroki / Dabi, who is currently 23 years old at the start, 24-year-olds now. His quirk is, of course, cremation. And, he is currently still a member of, League of Villains and then, the Paranormal Liberation Army. And he's, kind of currently on the run. With the last time we saw him, it was with Mr. Compress and I think Spinner. And then we have, Fuyumi Todoroki, who is 22 years old at the start, 23 years old now. She has an ice quirk. We have Natsuo Todoroki, who is currently 19 years old. He has an ice quirk. And then, of course, we have Shoto Todoroki, hero named Shoto. He is 15 years old at the start, 16 years old currently, and his quirk is, of course, half hot, half cold. I went over a fair amount of Shoto's relationship with his father in regards to the way that, Endeavor had, he had Toya, he married Rei because he wanted to have someone, add, like an ice quirk to his power that would help, make it that the person, their child, could like regulate their body heat better and like cool themselves down instead of, as opposed to just completely overheating. They could use their, ice side of the quirk to like cool themselves down. Dabi, unfortunately, Toya didn't unfortunately have that. He had Rei's body, but he was still burned by the fire because it was actually hotter than, Endeavor's. And then, of course, Fuyumi and Natsuo were kind of just born while he was training Toya. And, because, we know that it takes about 4 years, between like 3 to 4 years for a child to start showing a quirk. And Dabi is currently 24 years old. Fuyumi is only a year younger than him because she's 23. And that means that they would have just had Fuyumi anyway. And then Natsuo is 19, so he's about 4 years younger than Fuyumi. So there is that gap there that it could have been like, oh yeah, they had Fuyumi to give, Toya a sibling, and Endeavor might have been okay with that at that point in time. And then at that point in time, by that time frame, they might have noticed that Toya's quirk was actually kind of hurting him. And then, they ended up having, Toya a little bit later, or having a Natsuo a little bit later, because there was about a 5-year gap between Toya and Natsuo. And that would have implied that, okay, so Endeavor, by the time, Toya was 4 years old, and, he started to use his quirk and everything, and, yeah, he had the quirk, he had, this, cremation quirk. We don't have an official name for it, but cremation is what he calls it. And it's, this hotter fire, but he also has, Rei's body, so he's his body is actually weak to fire, and it would burn itself. And then that might have been they had Natsuo dead, and then there's about a 3-year age gap between Natsuo and Shoto. So then they may not have, Natsuo may have, exhibited an ice quirk by then. Same thing with Fuyumi had an ice quirk as well, and then they had Shoto. And yeah, Shoto stated when he talks to Izuku, when they're at the sports festival, and he's like, well, what a quirk marriage is, and, yeah, they're outlawed now, and, my father had a quirk marriage with my mother, and basically all just because he wanted to have me. And from everything that we've seen with Shoto, that's probably what he does think. And, in regards to different, conversations he's probably had with his mother at this point in time, and to a degree his sister and Natsuo, he may have found out that, because there's, there's an 8-year age difference between Toya and Shoto. So, yeah, Toya was 8 years old by the time Shoto came along. And, when Shoto then started to demonstrate that he did have like a half hot, half cold quirk that could allow him to regulate his body temperature better, Toya had gotten extremely jealous of that. And we saw that in the flashbacks with Toya and him trying to attack Natsuo, or him trying to attack Shoto when he was a baby. And I mean, like, I have two nieces and a nephew, and none of them would have ever tried to, like, actually do that type of physical harm to each other. Yeah, there's times where they don't get along, and, like, I have lots of other cousins that have, like, where there's, like, multiple siblings in a family. I have one set of cousins that's, like, it's like a daughter and then three sons. And, the daughter's my age, and then all the sons are younger. And, they don't have that type of relationship where they try to kill each other at any point in time. That's a lot of kids in one house, but, but, like, we have those moments where it's just like, okay. And then, like, we know that, like, later on, Toyo ran away, faked his own death and then ran away. And then Endeavor put all of his effort into training Shoto. And, he was already starting to put a lot of effort into training Shoto at that point in time, because by this point in time, it was very much known that Toya's quirk, whereas it was strong, yes, it was also hurting him and causing him damage and, like, burning his own skin. And, Endeavor didn't want his child, didn't want that to happen. It's a detriment to the child in regard to the fact that, if he wants to be a hero and he wants to use his fire quirk, it's going to hurt him every time he uses it. So that's a detriment. Whereas on top of that, he's also watching his own child hurt himself, and it's because of his own quirk. And I think at some point, Endeavor just kind of, like, hardened his heart against that in regards to, it was like, I just, Shoto was the last one left. He's the last one that I have to work with, and he has the quirk exactly as I wanted it to happen with all the, with the other kids that we've had. Natsuo and Fuyumi are kind of like this whole, they weren't intended to be experiments. They weren't intended to be like let's just see if we can have another one that'll have, like, this quirk. But, Natsuo and Fuyumi probably kind of felt that way at some point, particularly once, Shoto was born. And, Fuyumi tried to be at least, like, as much of a sister to her brothers as she could. And, like, Natsuo and Toya seemed to get along a fair amount. But then, Toya faked his own death and left. And, Endeavor just put everything into training Shoto. And yes, he was extremely abusive to him. He physically, he did so much training to the point where Shoto was getting sick, overheating him and, like, forcing him to use his fire. And then, forcing him to train with both his fire and his ice, and just, like, probably working his, child body into, like, to its limit. And, like, all this other stuff. And, we see flashes of, like, when they were training. And, he's like, your siblings live in a different world now than you do. You are in this other world where, like, you just focus on training and school and just being as strong as you can be. And, like, all this other stuff. And, that's what Shoto couldn't spend time with his siblings. He probably barely saw them between, like, them being at school and then him being, trained by Endeavor whenever Endeavor was home. And yeah, he did get to spend time with his mom. And, she gave him this, look to, you still, if you want to be a hero, then, but he was like, but I don't want to be a hero like Dad. Like Endeavor. Then, be a hero like All Might. And, like, they would watch, like, All Might on the news and, like, probably movies and stuff like that. Which, of course, would, like, annoy the heck out of Endeavor when he would probably get home and find out that that's what they were watching, or when Shoto would mention something about All Might. Because it's like, okay, I gotta deal with him at work, and I gotta deal with him at home. Wonderful. And I would at least put it this way. Endeavor does not want All Might dead. He doesn't want All Might dead. That has basically been proven. Endeavor did not want All Might to die. He wanted to prove that he could be a better hero than All Might. That he could be the #1 hero in Japan. That he could, rise above where All Might was. Prove that he was better. Or have a child that would prove that they were better than All Might ever was. because he just has this obsession with that. Whereas Kaido honestly wanted Odin dead. And Yamato had this Odin figure in her life, had Odin as this beacon, and she had the Bible and everything. And with Shoto, you know he had he had like newsreels, like news stuff that he could watch that would talk about All Might, or interviews that would pop up. They probably talked about like All Might at school where he went. And it's like all this other stuff where it's like, yes, All Might is still out there, and it's not like All Might was gone. And then of course he gets All Might as a teacher at UA. And Shoto has spent and then of course Shoto had to had his mother, unfortunately, she poured the boiling water on him on his fireside, and that burned him and scolded him. And that made her break. And having everything happened with Endeavor made her snap. And Shoto stated that he didn't blame his mother for that. He blamed Endeavor for it because of everything that he'd seen, the way that Endeavor would treat her as well. And even so many years later, when he did finally go and visit her in the hospital, he even told Izuku, it's like, no, I don't blame my mom for what happened. I blame Endeavor. And he told that to Endeavor. It's like, I don't blame mom. I blame you. You're the reason she left. You're the reason she snapped. You're the reason she gave me this scar, was because part of me looks like you. And so we have that moment. And Shoto, he's just like, I'm just going to I'm not going to fight the way you want me to fight. I'm going to use my ice quirk. I am going to just fight that way. I'm not going to use your fire. I'm not going to become the hero you want me to be by using your fire. I'm going to do it with my ice, and you will never see me use your fire. And he trains in that, and he's amazing with his ice and everything. And he's, pushed himself past certain limits with his ice and with his training that way. He still uses his quirk for the fire side of his quirk, the half hot, to like melt the ice afterwards, because we see him use that against the villains at the USJ, where he will like melt the ice away from them after like freeze them and like melt part of the ice to like get to their face or so they can still breathe. You're still trapped, but you can breathe, type of thing. And and then of course we see a bunch of this other stuff that happens with Shoto goes from, we see his first costume, and his first costume is literally just like his ice all the way down one side of his body, and that's just part of the costume. And then he has like a mask that is like ice on the other side, on half of his face, that's covering his fire side of his body. All the ice is covering the heat side of his body, so he just uses his cold side. And we see that for the first little bit, when we see them doing like the battle training against each other, for the where they're pretending two of them are heroes, two of them are villains, and they got to work work against each other. And we see that, and then of course we see that costume again at USJ, where we see this shift that of course starts to happen with Shoto in regards to starting to use his power more, is of course the sports festival, obviously. Because it's him when he's fighting Izuku. They have this conversation, and then of course during the time frame when he's fighting Izuku at the sports festival for their fight, Izuku is like just pushing himself, and he watches as Izuku breaks his bones and everything, and Izuku is just trying to get Shoto and to understand that it's not it's your quirk, not his. It's your power, not his. Yeah, okay, the quirk might be descendant from your father, but it's your power because you're the one that is using it. And I would like to think that Yamato would kind of feel the same way if by some chance she had ended up with like a devil fruit that was very similar to Kaido's. I mean, yeah, she's this wolf and everything. I know a lot of people were thinking that she was going to be this like tiger and everything, because of like, I guess something to do with like the Chinese zodiac, and like with the four cardinal directions in Japan, there's like the dragon and the tiger are like opposites or something, or like they don't get along or something. I don't know exactly how that works. My main reference for that is Digimon. But Yamato, even if she had ended up with like another dragon type devil fruit, like maybe like not the Azure type dragon, but like a different type of a dragon devil fruit, it may that may have been like similar powers to Kaido. but she may have still been like, well, I'm given this power, I might as well use it to the best of my ability to try to stop my father. And that's kind of what Momo is going through at the moment. But, Shoto, because of his fight with Izuku and, finally using his fire and such, and then he has this great line that he does to Endeavor that's actually the quote on the end of this video that is just like, I just forgot that you existed for a minute. When he's, after, like Endeavor tries to talk to him and, after the match, and like Shoto's just like, I just forgot that you existed. And he walks away. And that's where we start to see the shift, because this is when Shoto goes to start visiting his mother. Yes, he's always had Fuyumi in the house because she still stayed even after she like graduated, and so she still lives at the house and everything. Like Natsu was kind of off at college, so he comes and visits every now and then. But, Fuyumi, is like so happy when she finds out that Shoto's going to go visit their mom. He does go, and like they talk, and she writes, and he writes her letters and such like that later on when he can't visit her as much because they're living on campus. And, we watch as Shoto starts to slowly use his fire more and more. He uses it in the fight against Stain. And he, of course, uses it at various points during their fights that they do at the training camp, where he's having to use his fire more and more there, use it to light the fires when they're cooking, or using it to, when he's training himself and like he has to sit in like the hot water and he has to like freeze it and warm it up and freeze it and boil it, freeze it and boil it over and over again to like stretch his power. And when we see that with Shoto using his fire more and more, and of course his costume changes. He doesn't have like the ice on one side anymore. It's just like this blue kind of jumpsuit type of outfit with like his little utility thing around him, and he uses that more. And he shifted away from that because he's just like, well, I do want to be the best hero I can be, so I'm going to do everything in my power, including using the fire quirk from you, to just make myself even stronger, even better, go further. Yeah, I'll surpass All Might, but I'll surpass you more than anything. And that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to surpass his father. And he's using that to the best of his ability. And like, he goes and he visits his mom and he writes her letters, and, he, is probably talking with his sister a little bit more, and maybe talking with Natsuo a little bit more at times. And then, of course, we have the moment where Endeavor, when he goes, well, first we have the moment where Shoto is interacting with like all the kids at the provisional license exam remedial classes, where him and Bakugo have to deal with all the kids, and and they're they're playing with the kids and everything, and like Shoto, like after they've kind of got to reach the children's hearts, as Gangorka put it, which I just love. He's showing the kids his fire and like making them understand that yes, it can be dangerous, but it can also be very beautiful and useful. And he's like helping them understand that. And he's using he uses his ice quirk to make the slide and everything that the kids get to play on by helping use their quirks too. And like all this other stuff that they're, and like he's showing them that there is beauty in regards to what they can do, that their quirks are not less, that other quirks are not more, that it's all based on how you use them. And we see that, and we see in the background, we see Endeavor starting to notice that, and like he does tell Shoto that he is proud of him. And that's not necessarily something that like Shoto is like, okay, that's not my intention to make you proud of me, but sure, I'll take that. And he's like accepts that that compliment from his father, because at this point in time is when we start to see the change in Endeavor, as I mentioned in the father's video. And and then of course we have the big battle that like Endeavor has against Hood, with him and Hawks against the Hood Nomu. And where Endeavor gets, injured, and like Shoto and like his siblings, Natsuo and Fuyumi are like watching this on TV when it happens and everything. Like Shoto's got his, he's at the dorm rooms, he's got his friends around him, his classmates, and Izawa is there and everything as they watch what happens with the battle. And he is just, we see him, wanting, he doesn't want his father to die. Yamato at this point could give two fricks if her father died. Shoto does not want his father to die. He at least understands that he has enough value as a hero and that he's getting better, that he doesn't want to see his father die. And because that's this whole detriment to the world after just losing All Might and like all this other stuff. And he, him and the class watch as Endeavor fights against Hood and, with Hawks and everything, and they win. And, Endeavor does like this, his stance and his victory stance and everything. And Shoto is just relieved. We see this relief flow through him that his father is alive. And, we see that. And then, of course, we cut to like a little bit later after Endeavor's out of the hospital. They have like the family dinner with, him and, Fuyumi and Natsuo and Shoto and Endeavor, with all of them having dinner together. And, Natsuo, of course, does like where he storms out and everything. And, we get the, interactions there between like Shoto and them. And, later on, then of course we have where Shoto is, still, where Endeavor's like trying to get Shoto to come and train with him a little bit more. He's just like, okay, well, I want to have you help train with, I want to help you train. I want to help you train your fire and everything. And Shoto is like, yeah, yeah, that's fine. You can help me train my fire, sure. And, so he does that training. And then, of course, we have the moment where where they're on the Nabu Island, where they're off on, in the Heroes Rising movie, in the second movie, where they're there, and like Shoto uses like the skills that his father taught him in regards to, pushing past with his fire. He uses that to push past with his ice to defeat Chimera. And from, and then, in the end credits and such like that, we have it that like Endeavor shows up on the island and he's just like holding on to Shoto, and I just love it. He's just like, oh, thank God you're okay. And like, as I mentioned, Shoto is just like, please put me down. Please put me down. And, so it's like, we at least see that, we see that there's like this slight increase in their relationship, that it's at least gotten somewhat better. And like Shoto has probably continued to write more and more letters to his mom, because we see her show Fuyumi and Natsuo the letters and such. And like we see also, and I don't remember if I mentioned this in the Endeavor video, or in the Endeavor Kaido video or not, but we see also that like Endeavor has at least tried to reach out to her, not actually physically come and visit her, because, the doctors are like, that may not be the best idea. And, but he sends her these flowers. And like they're this flower that she really, really loves. It's her favorite flower, and he keeps sending them to her because he remembered that she said way back when they first started, like when they were first arranged to be married, she said that those were her favorite flowers. And he remembered that. Doesn't make up for everything that he did, and he's trying to get better, but it at least shows that there's some form that he's like, I at least want to send you this pretty flower and everything. Whether or not Shoto knows about the flowers yet, I don't know. But of course, then we have it where then we have the Endeavor Agency arc, where, Shoto and Izuku and Bakugo, of course, all go and they do their internships, their, hero studies at the Endeavor Agency. And, this is where I can talk about some of the bonds that Shoto has with his other classmates, because, yes, he has like this bond that he has with Class 1A in and of itself, where it's, he's getting closer with the rest of the class. Like he's obviously friends with Izuku, but like he also has like this friendship where it's like him and Izuku and like Achako and, Ida, with the four of them together. And then of course he does have this a friendship with, Bakugo, plus he also has like this other, these other still friendships and bonds and stuff with the rest of the class. And like, so we see that, and I love how they show that, because it's just like this great stuff where it's just like, okay, we got all of these guys together, we got these guys, he's not on his own anymore, he's not alone anymore. And I do think that moving into the dorms was a good thing for Shoto, because it lets him be around the other students more, his classmates, his friends more, and we see him opening up a little bit more to them. And and we see that, and that's always very nice to see for Shoto, for any character that comes from like that type of a, an abusive family, or just like a sad thing where it's like we see them opening up more, that's healthy for them. Not that, being an introvert is necessarily a bad thing, introvert right here. But having people that you can trust and have those bonds with are a good thing. And, it's like, as I said, he still writes letters to his mom. He probably still does like texting with his sister a little bit more, maybe with Natsuo as well. And, they go and they have this big dinner, but, just before the boys are finishing up their, their, work studies before they're going to go back to class. We have this dinner, of course, where, Natsuo and Fuyumi and Endeavor and Shoto and then, Izuku and Bakugo are all there at the dinner. And, Izuku and Bakugo kind of get to learn a little bit more about, like, Shoto's family history. And now, of course, from what we've seen in the manga, with, Dabi's whole reveal, now he's like, okay, yeah, no, I was Toya Todoroki, I still am, but, Endeavor did all of this horrible stuff and, like, revealed that to the world, like, aired their dirty laundry all over the place. And Endeavor and Shoto are just like, Shoto's like, we have to beat him together. We have to take him out together. We made this monster. Therefore, we have to be the ones to take him down. And, so we'll see what happens with that. And, there's going to be more battles. We know that. There's probably going to be a fair amount of a fight between, Endeavor and Shoto working together to take out Toya. And as awesome as it would be to see, like, somehow see Natsuo and Fuyumi and Rei helping with that, they don't have, like, battle type quirks. I mean, like, yes, if they had, like, trained with their quirk, because, like, Rei's ice quirk might be on, like, just, like, maybe a slightly lower level of power than, like, Shoto's, half cold side. She might still be pretty high level on that, but she wasn't given the chance to, like, train with it. And Fuyumi and Natsuo, obviously, because, like, Fuyumi is a teacher, and then Natsuo is just, like, in school right now. They may not have been able to have the chance to train with it the way that, Toya was, trained with it and the way that Shoto was trained with his quirk. We'll see what happens with that. But I do like the fact that we do see, like, Yamato has her bonds that she had with Ace, where she had a friend, and now she has a friend with Luffy and with Momo. And, by the time, it's like, yes, I want Yamato to become a Straw Hat. I also want Carrot to become a Straw Hat, but I'm probably more like, I think it's going to be Yamato that's going to become the Straw Hat. I'm going to become the next one. That's not going to be surprising. If she is. But, she's going to have those bonds. And even if she doesn't become a Straw Hat, she still has this bond of friendship now that she has with Luffy. And that her and Momo can still be friends. And, like, that stuff. Shoto is building his friendships with the rest of the class more and more. And, we saw that with, like, as determined as he was to help try to catch, when they were trying to, catch, Izuku. We saw that there, how much they're just like, nope, you're coming back with us. And, like, freezing him, like, trying to drag him out and, like, get him back to the school and everything. And, Shoto's the one that, like, brings out the blankets to, like, wrap up Izuku after Izuku falls asleep in the dorm living room after he, after they get him bathed and I think they fed him, and then they, like, wrap him up after, like, when he falls asleep after, like, him and All Might, like, have their little discussion about, like, Izuku apologizing for the way that he acted. So, Shoto obviously cares about his friends. Yamato cares about, she misses Ace. She cared about him a lot. Whether or not I would put in there that would be, like, a possible romantic relationship, I don't think so. For, like, Ace and Yamato, I don't see that really for them. I don't really see, I mean, like, people I know have already written, like, fanfics about, like, Yamato and Luffy and Yamato and Ace or Yamato and Momo. Surprisingly enough, I don't think I saw that many of, like, Yamato and Hiyori. That would have been an interesting fanfic for, like, the two of them together. Hey, daughter of Odin, daughter of Kaido. I'm sure some people like that concept. But, so we have that and everything that happens. With, Shoto is also developing his relationships with the class. And we'll see where those go. But the Yamato and Shoto are obviously rising above what their fathers had intended for them. Yes, Shoto still is going to become a hero. He still wants to become a hero, but he wants to be a better hero than Endeavor was, to prove that he is better than his father. Whereas Yamato wants to prove that instead of being this horrid thing the way that her father is, this horrid ogre type thing the way that her father is, she can be better. She can be a protector instead of a destroyer. She can actually help people instead of hurting them. And, they're both going to use their powers, Yamato with her Makami and her Haki and everything, and Shoto with his ice and his fire and such. And, they're both going to rise above that. And, hey, if, I think that Shoto and Yamato, not couple-wise or anything like that, but, like, them, like, just, like, talking and be like, well, my dad does this, my dad did this. Oh, God, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know, my dad's not that bad, but you have my sympathies, but just like, oh, God, like, just like all this other stuff, just like the two of them having a conversation would be kind of funny. Of course, that goes along with, like, Izuku and, like, Luffy having a funny conversation. So that's what we have there. So, I thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. One last picture of Rainy. I haven't put anything aside, as if I could be turned that easily. It's just, in that moment, that instant, I forgot all about you. Whether that's good, bad, or something in between, that's something I'll have to think about.